What's going on, everybody? Grant Temple here, the sales plug. I'm here to connect you to some of the best minds in the online business world, helping you learn how to sell better, sell more, so you can serve more clients and ultimately make more money. Today, we've got an awesome guest on. This guy has mastered the art of copywriting. He's killing it as a freelancer and has also built a really successful coaching business. Cardinal Mason is a freelance copywriter who works with info product creators and e-com brands. Like I mentioned, he's got an awesome coaching program that's helped countless students land their first clients as freelancers, and quite a few who are now doing freelance copywriting full time. So this dude's an absolute beast. You need to be dialed into everything he says here. Mason, thanks for being here. How's it going, man?
What up, Grant? Feeling good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Thanks. So going right into it here, tell us a little bit about yourself, what sparked your interest with freelance copywriting, eventually leading to your coaching business. What's your story?
Yeah, so it starts with the ego of an 18, 19-year-old who thinks he's better than everybody else. And not really in a bad way. It's just I always wanted to, be something cool, do something cool. Except none of the actions that I took in life really reflected that at the time. Like story of pretty much everyone's life. Wanted to be like Harvey Specter basically, or like Don Draper, and didn't really understand that actually takes work. So I was kind of just like coasting, like working some shitty jobs. Had sort of a moment with myself where I realized I was like, oh, maybe I don't have the work ethic that I think I do. But the problem was I was just like looking at all these options that like never really appealed to me. And like, I was super picky with like what I wanted to do for work. And by some sort of act of God, I found copywriting, because no one ever really talked about that in my real life. Like I was friends with some guys who were like, I guess, in business, like they were about to get a degree in business or something like that. But I'd never heard the word copywriting thrown around until I was on Twitter one day. So I read a bunch of threads about like how it worked and how like you could make money online writing words. And I was like, I know how to write, I could do this. And then it would sort of fit my identity of like, I would be Harvey Specter or Don Draper or whatever. And then ended up procrastinating a long time, 18 months later until COVID hit, when I was finally like, all right, I got all the time in the world. There's literally no excuse for me to not do this. Like, this is a test of who I am now. And if I choose to squander this opportunity of just having unlimited free time to, go play video games or like, waste a bunch of time, then I don't deserve anything. And so I put my nose to the grindstone, was able to sign a couple of clients as a freelancer fairly quickly, and then launched a cool career where I was able to drop out of school. I was making like, I guess, a full-time income fairly quickly. Like I shot right up to like 5 to 7K a month in the first few months, which was like where I wanted to be anyway. And then it took 3 years of me doing that before I ever really wanted to teach it, because I didn't really care. But then I started Copy MBA, and there's I think the stats are like there's 90,000 people that have attended a free class lifetime, gain a little following on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Now mostly like 90% of my time like goes to teaching, which I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. I found you through your content. Dude, we're going to go into that a little bit too, because I've always loved your content. That's what really jumped out to me. And I'm sure it's somewhat intentional on your end, but I got a couple of questions for you in a little bit about how to create like really good content, because you've grown, quite big audiences. So I guess so kind of along this track, where was a moment that clicked for you that you were like, okay, this is something I can really dive into as a freelancer? And then I guess as well, what clicked for you that, all right, now I can start teaching it and grow a sizable coaching business?
So the first question was, what made me think I could do freelancing?
Yeah, well, I guess was there like a moment that clicked? Was like signing your first client that you were like, ooh, it's go time, like I can crush this? Or was there kind of a defining moment in that?
It was my first response to a cold email. It was a negative response too. It was just the fact that I got a response that blew my mind. And I was like, okay, I guess we can do it. Because like, again, there was no frame of reference for like what this stuff looked like. I didn't know anyone really doing it. There were very few people online who were doing copywriting. Like, I came up in the age of drop shipping, basically. There were a couple guys doing copywriting, but like the info I was consuming, it was like podcasts and books and YouTube videos from people who have been doing it for years, like 10 years, and they were older than me, and they started in a new or an older era where like there was no real cold email. It was like you were going to networking events and stuff to get clients. And so I just had no idea. There were like a couple people that told me like, yeah, you can send cold emails and get clients. And I was like, all right, man, like, let's give it a shot. Like, it wasn't like now where it's like, we have people like you who like, you do it casually. Like there are, a couple hundred people in the inner circle who like, just kind of just do it. You know what I mean? There's just people that kind of, it's not even a big deal for them. But at the time, like this, such a huge thing where I was like, oh, I just need this to work. And so I blindly trusted the advice of like anonymous Twitter users on how to send cold emails and having no idea if it was actually going to work. And then the first time I ever got a response, I was like, oh, now I know that I can get someone's attention. At least it just wasn't a good fit. And so I think like maybe a week or two after that response, I was just going so hard. I was just sun up, sun down, like doing outreach, applying to stuff. And then I ended up landing that first client. So that was kind of what like hooked me on copywriting. But for coaching, I mean, I kind of fell into that by accident. So like I launched Copy MBA initially with Chase Diamond, who some people might know. He's like he was my second ever client, but he was also a mentor to me. Like we worked closely together for a while. Like he did me a lot of favors. I did a lot of free work for him and just tried to help as much as I could with his stuff. And because I had launched a course with him before, but I had not, like, it wasn't my face, it was him. Like I helped with the marketing, like all the stuff that was going to go behind like distributing it, and also like the content. Like I basically ghostwrote the content of the course. And then so we had done 2 or 3 of those, and I was like, let's just do a course 50-50 together, because now I have distribution, now I have an audience. Because this was when I probably had like 30 or 40K on Twitter. I didn't have Instagram, but I had like a decently sized email list and TikTok too. And so I was like, we could just do this together. And so we launched Copy MBA September of 22, and then we didn't really make a ton of money with it. Like it was just a course at the time. Like it was just like the video only course, and it was good, but I didn't really take it seriously until I started doing webinars in like March of 23. And I was like, oh, like there's huge demand for this, and people want more access to information like this than just a course. Like we should have coaching on top of it, which we then did. And then that kind of blew it up. And like, that's why it's like my favorite thing to work on now. Cause there's just so many people that come through that like, they love the content. They want to get started in copywriting. They don't think it's possible for them. And then they talk to someone like you or Amanda or Tommy or Sebastian or someone that's just like already doing it. And then they end up, building a stream of income that, completely changes their life. Like it's really cool, man.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. When we were together, when you flew us down to Miami, which was super dope. Not a lot of people do that for their clients, that's for sure. I was telling you, we were at that restaurant and I was like, dude, you've captured something here. It's like, you're good at selling people, you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is the idea, here's my program. But I think what you've got something special too is the sale continues afterwards. It's not like you're extracting more money, but like people are bought in, but there's so many programs where like people are bought in, then they pay the money and afterwards they're like, fuck, like I don't really want to do this, or like they don't get the results. But just in your community and inner circle, there's like it's like an energy, you know what I mean? Like people are into it. People are trying to get clients. People are getting clients. People are making money. And I think that's super unique.
I appreciated that when you said that. I still remember that. We were at 8th Street. And I thought that was super cool because you also have experience in the industry. Like you're a little bit older than me. You're 30, 33. Okay. So I'm 25. And so you are not the typical person that would come through inner circle. Like a lot of times it's guys that have never done anything online and they just want to get started with something. Right. But like you've seen a lot of BS, so you can compare mine to something else. I think like, I've always been a product guy. Like anything I've ever worked on, like whether it's just my own freelancing or like agencies that I've had, or like anything I've ever distributed to a lot of people, like I really care about the way it comes across. And that a lot of people think like, oh, that's whatever. Like, it's just cope. Like good enough marketing will like get you through. You can make a bunch of money. You don't have to care about product. Good product will be way more profitable than like your best marketing. You know what I mean? And I don't even think I'm the best at this. I think like, do you know Jimmy Farley?
Yeah. I've seen him on through his content through you.
So Jimmy Farley, he does TikTok Shop. He has a program called Creators Corner, and his stuff is so good that he doesn't even really market it. He doesn't do IG pushes. He makes like 1 TikTok a month. he kind of does YouTube, but it's mostly just case study videos. And he still has a constant stream of people coming through because he cares about his product. That's where he puts all of it in. And also too, when you're coaching beginners, which again is not you, but a lot of the guys that usually come through, they need to be, continuously sold on themselves that they can actually do it. So that's really the purpose of those like daily group calls that we do, or like even the one-on-ones. It's mostly just so that we can tell you that this is actually a thing and that you shouldn't give up, because all the information is already there. It's just they need to be told again and again and again that this is like a viable option for you. And that's what gets them to the point where they are making money, just because they grind out that first phase where they're not making any money.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I've noticed about that too is I'll be in the Slack channel and it'll just be like random huddles. It'll be like 11:30 p.m. and I pop in there for a second. There's like random huddles going on, or, you can see a little like headphones thing. There's a couple of people in there. I'm like, dang, people are up right now, like in the community talking. I don't even know what they're talking about, but I've been in countless things where it's like the community is almost a negative, to be completely honest, because it's like, it's so dead. No one's really getting any results. It almost looks like, nothing's going on, so that aspect of yours, I think it does encourage people to take action, get clients, make money. And then when enough people are doing that, it's almost like it feeds itself. You're watching other people make money. You're like, all right, well, if this guy can do it, I can do it. Or if she can do it, I can do it. I think that's a big part of the success that you had with that.
That's so funny that you say that, because that never ends. Like whether it's for like the little freelancers who are just getting started, and they see someone sign their first client and they get jealous. Dude, at every level of business, it's me and my cohort, like my guys, we've been doing this for like 5 years now. We got to, we compare ourselves to guys that are kind of in our verticals, or guys that are 5 years ahead of me, where they look at like, other guys in their vertical and they're like, this idiot's doing, 3 mil a month. Like, why aren't I doing 3 mil a month? It's like, that never ends. And that is literally the fuel that I feel like has gotten most entrepreneurs to where they are. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Cause it's one of those, and it's meant to be like a good thing. Right. But I've gone to some events, like there's a mentor of mine. I mean, he's done over 9 figures online. It's like, I thought he'd be like godlike when I went to meet him, and you're like, this guy's just a normal guy. Like, he's cool. He's smart at marketing. He's good at that stuff, but like, it's not so different. There's not such a big gap. So when you start meeting people that have done what you would perceive as significantly better as far as like results in an online business, most times you're like, this is just a normal guy. They've just done the work. They've put the time in. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Or they're like subnormal, where it's like, I remember early, before Copy MBA was like what it is, there was a guy on Twitter that me and my friends used to make fun of, because we were like, bro, like this guy blank tweeted again, like, let's see what he's got to say about this thing. Like, he just always had like the worst ideas ever. Just like wasn't a guy that we really like respected a lot. And then there was something he launched where he started doing like 300 grand a month, and we were like, he's doing 300K a month? Like, what the fuck? Like, why is he doing 300K a month? It made us all so mad. It drove us to do more. Like, it's like, you have to get a little jealous. Like, it actually works. It's a great like technique. Recommend it.
Yeah, and it goes to show. So my little brother, he's a little more skeptical of things, and definitely not into sales in any sort of way. He, executes trades for like a, finance company essentially. But I'll like talk with him about, stuff. Sometimes I'm in high ticket sales. I've, do copyright, all sorts of things. And I'll say that at times, like, dude, like, no offense to this person, like, they're a fucking idiot and they're absolutely crushing it. And he's like, I think you overcomplicate things. He's like, you got to remember sometimes that a lot of people are idiots, and not like talking down on anyone, but he's basically making the point like, you almost overcomplicate. He's like, talk to them like they're kindergartners and you'll probably get through to them. And I think that's I could probably segue into copywriting a good bit, right? Is making sure it's simple and clear for people, not super creative and out there.
Yeah, actually, that's like one of the main rules that I tell people who are new writers is like, you have to like underestimate, or I guess overestimate. You have to treat people like they're dumber than they are. Cause like my mom used to say this all the time, and I love it. Like, a person is smart, but people are stupid. So like, for some reason, as you zoom out more, it's just more likely that like, you're just going to run into people who are below the mean. You know what I mean? And there's a great YouTube video that I watched years ago now. It's called The Art of Dumbing Down. And it talks about like why, every single, like why Mr. Beast is the, biggest creator in the world. It's because he makes videos that are so easy to understand that like a kid can watch it. Someone who, you know, doesn't speak the language that the video is in can watch it. They can understand it. You know, everyone can follow along. It's for everyone. It's as broad as you can go. And when you're trying to write, you know, copy that will agree with pretty much everybody that comes on the page or everybody who's in the target market, like you have to do that. You have to really keep it kind of dumb.
Yeah. It's a great point. Well, kind of going into freelancing, right? So you started doing this for clients, you know, writing copy for them, and kind of going off this foundational piece, right? I guess what would you say is the foundation of copywriting that someone can learn? Like, where's square one if someone wanted to start learning about copy? Where should they go? What should they start looking at?
You just got to find out like what humans in general really want. So, I mean, in my content for the last like almost 3 years on TikTok and everywhere else, I've been preaching this book called Cashvertising. And a lot of like older, more legacy copywriters will be like, well, that's not even the best copywriting book, like Boron Letters and Breakthrough Advertising. Like, yeah, there's a lot of great copywriting books, but Cashvertising, number one, is like you can pirate it online. There's like a free PDF somewhere there. And two, like it teaches you, it's like the absolute basics of what people want, like the Life Force 8, right? And so most people, when they're talking to people, they don't really fully understand like what it is that like people who are trying to buy something, like what they're actually trying to achieve. And so like when you start to look into like what that is and also what a hook is, like just how to get people's attention, how to make them care about what you care about, that is like layer one of copywriting. And then above that, I guess, is like style. And then above that is like some other supplementary skills, like how do you distribute it? Like, do you understand, you know, how email, like ESPs work? Do you understand how to use, you know, text platforms? Do you understand how to like, you know, structure a landing page and stuff like that? So I think like in that order is usually how you find it out. But layer one, that's why I recommend Cashvertising, is because it teaches you all that. And that's like, it doesn't just help copywriting, it helps everything, bro. Like it helps you communicate better with everybody.
Yeah, and I think I've probably heard you say this in a video, and it's one of those things where you can, you know, you start getting down to the atom in the universe, right? You could go forever on this, but the very foundation, I think, of communication, right, is like, if you learn copywriting and you get good at it, it's not just about writing words. It really is how you communicate with anyone at any given time, right? It's like you can get really granular with it and go, all right, if I understand what people want, I can navigate all the relationships. I can navigate all the conversations that I have to have. And you think Cashvertising kind of gives a good layer one level for that. So
yeah, but also like most of this stuff, ironically, you can really only learn by doing. So I remember when I started thinking about copywriting, like so I used to have, I'm not friends with them anymore, but I used to have these two friends that were just like, they were twins. And they were like, I love them to death, man, but they were just like really hard to wrangle. You know what I mean? Like when I was hanging out with them, like trying to get them to pay attention, they were just super ADHD all the time. And so like I started to test my copywriting skills based on like, can I get the twins to pay attention to me when I'm talking? Because they were just always distracted by something. They were always arguing with each other or some bullshit. And so like I started to like literally use hooks in conversations when I was talking to the twins, because I was like, that was the only way for me to wrangle them. And so once I started doing that, then it made it easier, like opening conversations with strangers and stuff like that, where it's just like you learn by doing, you learn by testing. And it's a lot of times like that sounds like a cop-out answer, because it's like, oh, come on, like you've tested before, like you must know some sort of trick, but it's like it's always a little bit different. Like you're never gonna have a one-size-fits-all answer to a question like that. But the more you write, the more you speak, the more you sort of like are aware of these practices, the easier it's going to be to sort of just spit them out. So you at this point, I know you don't do a ton of copywriting because you're mostly doing sales stuff, but like there's probably a difference between like when you first started doing writing, like copywriting in this style, the time that it would take you to sort of come up with a piece versus now, where it's like now it's just natural to you, where it's like you understand both sales and copywriting. So it's like you can structure an argument in an email really quickly. You can, you know, you can make it feel cohesive without like making it sound too forced or anything. Way faster, because it's just natural, because you've done it so many times. That's not something you can just teach. I can't snap my fingers and all of a sudden someone understands how to write you know, a 500-word email in 10 minutes.
Yeah. And That's a really good point, because I think a lot of times, particularly, I think this is a challenge that a lot of info product creators come by, or coaching programs or anything kind of in that realm. People think that they'll watch one video or go through a course and like, God's going to enlighten them, like deliver the stone tablet or something. It's like, well, just taking in the information is one thing, but then you actually have to do it, right? Like Michael Jordan could teach you how to do a jump shot, but like when you go up and you go to execute, like you suck because you're not good at basketball. You got to do what he says 1,000 times, and then you'll be, better at it. So I think it's kind of a similar thing in coaching, is helping people understand that it is taking in the information, but like you said, actually practicing it and applying it, because that's the only way you're going to get better at it.
Yeah. And it's true for every business model. I think that scares a lot of people off of copywriting, is they think that it's like a skill that takes forever to get good at. I would say that like any business that you're going to try, like, okay, let's talk about e-commerce and trading, because those two are pretty hot right now. You can't just copy someone else's trading strategy and just all of a sudden just have nothing but winners. Like most guys that I know that are good at trading and like make real money from that were unprofitable for at least a year. Like one guy in particular, a guy I used to work with pretty closely, he was unprofitable for like 3 years, and he's like smart and good at this stuff and had gotten a lot of help. Now, obviously it's easy for him because like he can just identify what's going to happen, and then he just, he can make good trades. Same with e-commerce, like understanding what a good, product looks like, and like then writing copy for that product, and then writing creatives for that, and like, dealing with issues that come up. Like it's all a reps thing. Like with the same information, someone with 3 years in the game is always going to be on top of somebody who is, 2 months into the game. It's just the way it is. But the good part is that, okay, so now I've invested 5 years of my life into the skill of copywriting, getting good at it, and also sort of trying to learn more by teaching. So now I've taught so many people, like some one-on-one, some group setting, that now it is reps, and you will get there at some point. Like everyone who sticks with it for long enough, like will become like Mr. Miyagi, where it's just like, you know what I mean? Like it just becomes easy no matter what, if you just keep doing it.
Yeah. And speaking of those other business models, I know, you helping people get into freelance copywriting. Why freelance copywriting versus something like e-com or trading, or maybe even just creating your own like coaching program or something, or info product right off the bat? Why do you think going into freelance copywriting is a great place for beginners to start?
Well, I mean, I chose it because I didn't have any money to put towards anything else. Like I couldn't, spend money on ads or test products. Like I was broke, bro. I didn't have any money that I could meaningfully put into trading. I didn't even know like what platforms to use. Like it never like really called me. The thing I loved about copywriting was like I could go super, super lean. I already had a laptop. I already had access to Google Docs, and I had, a phone where I could scroll Instagram and find leads that were potentially going to pay me. I had no money to invest. And that to me was like something that I liked, because it was like, it was all up to me. It wasn't like me gambling. Cause like, that's how I literally, even today, still kind of think of ads, is like going to the casino and just putting in $100 and hoping that I get at least 120 out. And like when I only had $22 to my name, like that, wasn't a viable option for me. And so I was just looking for something that was basically free to start. And I mean, the reason I also like, I'm very anti like first business info. I know some great entrepreneurs that have done that, like that have, made money really fast because their first business was some sort of course or something like that. And so I'm not gonna knock it, because there's some people that are just gifted at making content and gifted at selling stuff like that. And like, if that's what, like as long as the product is decent, you're not like really ripping people off, and do your thing. But I mean, like I said, like it took me 3 years to like really want to do that for Copy MBA. And I think like because of that, I'm able to make a better product and be a little bit more authentic when I sell it. Because I've done it for so long.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of going into actually, getting clients as a freelancer, I'm sure it's different now. But in the beginning, it's to a certain extent, you're cold pitching people. You're trying to position yourself as someone that can help them. And I think there's a difference in that, how you approach like that sort of sale, getting a client, versus if it's like an inbound lead for your coaching program, right? Where you can get on a call for your coaching program, or one of your sales reps kind of be like, what's got you here, right? Like, you're here because you need help with something, as opposed to as a freelancer, you're really trying to like sell them on an idea. For example, the first thing I ever did online was actually try to sell like a Facebook ads service, just, learn Facebook ads and tell people, businesses I can help them. And then some sales script I found was like, oh, when someone gets on the call, basically ask them like, oh, what's got you on the call today? So like, I reached out to this person, asked them to get on a call, told them I can help them. And then I'm like, oh, so what's got you on the call? They're like, I don't know. You reached out to me. And I was like, yeah, I guess I did. So how would all that to be said, how do you go about structuring or kind of selling someone as a freelancer when you're the one that's trying to pitch them on an idea versus them coming to you?
Okay. So the thing, and again, it's been a while since I've had to do outreach. Like, every client I've had in the last, who knows how long, has been bound to me. Like, even when I was a beginner, like after the first 6 months of me doing copywriting, like I wasn't doing outreach anymore. It was all intern work stuff. But like it's more about the sentiment. Okay. So like the sentiment for like more inbound sales is more like you're sort of like the gatekeeper, right? Where it's like, they're kind of pounding down the door, like they want to work with you. And the more stoic you are about not really giving a shit about like if they work with you or not, the more they're going to kind of want to, like kind of the way you sell like a Rolex or a Birkin or something like that, like more like luxury sales. But the way you kind of spin it when you're the one chasing them is like, you kind of got to just be like extremely passionate about like how much potential they have to make more money, and they're just not doing it. So that's what I'm telling everybody now. So I'm doing this January sprint, and I have 4 guys that currently don't have clients. And I told them that the best way for them to sort of like, I guess, even have like plausible deniability to get on the call and just make it seem like there is value there is like, the client or the prospect is dumb for not doing these things yet. And like, they're dumb for not having hired you to help them do those things. And like, if you're just super stoked about like Grant, oh my God, like you have 200,000 followers on Instagram. You have like a link in your bio that goes to some $27 course. Like, why are you not running some sort of ever webinar? Why do you not have a VSL that books calls for a high ticket thing? Like, you have so much traffic. Like, you're making right now 20 grand a month, barely trying with this low ticket thing that you have just a link in your bio with 200,000 followers. Like, you should be at like $250,000 a month minimum if we switch to a high ticket thing. Like, here's what's going to happen. Here's how I can set this up. I would set email sequences. I do SMS. I would write a VSL for you. And you have all this stuff there. You paint the money picture for them is usually how I recommend that people sell it, where it's like any person who's leaving, a couple hundred grand on the table, like they're going to be a little bit interested in what you have to say. And then all it comes down to is like, are you the person to do it? Like, they want the service. It's just like, are you the one to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a key insight, because I think a lot of people, I'm sure, right, as you're helping people get their first client, that's probably a huge anxiety. It's like, what do I get on this call and say, and why are they going to want what I have? But it is about positioning, yourself as someone that can bring something to the table. So I think that's a really good take on that, which is different than if someone's coming to you, right? Like you said, that's a really good way to put it, as a gatekeeper. Like, you're kind of, all right, well, what's got you here? What are you doing? And you can really drum up the excitement, but it's different when you're reaching out to them. So now kind of switching to the coaching side of things. Obviously, you've got a really successful coaching program. If you don't mind me asking, you hit 8 figures in that so far? Are you approaching it? I'm guessing you've got to be close.
Lifetime, yes, but not like in a year ever.
In a year. Okay. Yeah. So what's your sales process look like for that? Kind of the high level strategy. I know you got your content. I think you run some ads. You do the free webinar. So what's kind of your process look like that drives the most amount of sales into your coaching program?
Yeah. So let's just talk about it again, because I'm not gonna lie. Ads, we have not cracked ads yet. We are barely profitable, which is like, that's all I can ask for. There's still a lot of work for us to do and for me to do to learn about this stuff and like how we can really tighten that funnel up. But I mean, the way it's been since we started really in like April of 2023 is, it's changed a little bit. So we used to do the model where it was like all traffic from TikTok, funnel them into a free class, which is the webinar. We do a free training, and then at the end we pitch a $497 or a $597 or $697. It was kind of different every week. We were just testing stuff to see what worked best, and then we would we would get, you know, between 20 and sometimes like 100 buyers on the free class for the low ticket thing. I would do a group call on the following Tuesday to sort of answer some questions or whatever. At the end, soft pitch to Inner Circle if you want more help. And then we were sending emails and kind of just like following up with people like who had already purchased. And then we started kind of doing a hybrid where it was like TikTok would funnel the free class to or like to get people to downsell. And then every other channel was just booking calls. And then we were like, well, this is done. Just be going high ticket all the way. And so then we started in January getting basically rid of the low ticket. Like we don't distribute that anywhere unless it's like downsell on a call. And so all of the traffic is coming from like, so YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and then all the content people, you know, probably watch a couple hours worth of TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever before even thinking about booking a call, which is why organic is so good because I can distribute that like en masse for free. And then, but they're learning about like why it's a great business model, why it worked for me, why it's probably going to work for them, what's possible with all this stuff, like how it works. And then they end up, you know, booking a call with one of my 3 guys, and then they're in.
Yeah. It's a great process because I still see sometimes, and these are all, it's all marketers trying to sell their own thing, right? But you know, webinars are dead. Like I've seen that so many times. I'm like, man, I see my boy absolutely crushing the webinar game for the last few years. You know, so I love that you're executing on that. And it brings them, I guess, going into the copywriting side of things and the buyer journey, right? Like you're always just kind of selling them on the next thing. It's like your content sells them on the free class. Your free class sells the book, like the call. And then on the call, you sell the Inner Circle program, right?
Right. And so about the, like, which funnel? Okay. So it's a weird thing, bro, because a lot of people say like webinars are not the way to go. It's super inefficient because there's so many different like touch points. So you lose a lot of people, which is true. But I think it's unique to me because I'm built for the camera. I've always been like a bit of a camera hog. Like I can talk on camera. I can entertain for an hour if I need to. And so I think I'm just good at webinars. I think like our slides are really good. The training is really good. Like there's plenty of people that actually get results like just from the free class. And like, so the presentation is just like dialed, right? And so now we're back to bi-weekly webinars. So starting tomorrow, basically every 2 weeks until probably midsummer, we're just consistently doing that. And I realized too that it's like part of the sales process. So like, yeah, some people will just watch a YouTube video and then go direct to book a call and then close. Some people, most people actually are more hesitant. They need to be, they're not as easy of a sell. And so like, yeah, they need to go to like maybe 1 to 3 free classes and really get bought in. And so like having those consistently going is going to help with ads. It's going to help with, you know, everything. It's just like basically just like clearing out the pipeline every 2 weeks and booking just a bunch of calls. So that is something I'm excited about. But on ads, we kind of have 2 funnels going. We have like the call funnel, which is going straight to the book a call. It's a VSL. And then on one of them, we have an opt-in. So like the dialers are hitting them. And then on another one, there's no opt-in. And then they just book a call. And then the other funnel is the Webby funnel. But I talked to a couple of guys in Toronto, I think it was like last week or the week before, about how they're, you know, spending $350 a month on ads for a low ticket thing, and they're making 500 back on like upselling to the high ticket. So they're going like a low to high thing, which like we tried, did not work for us. So it's going to be different for every business. Like I don't think there's one size fits all for that either.
Yeah. And I like the transition that you made to from, and maybe this is just because I'm a sales guy at heart, having an actual sales team, you know, helping, because I think you said initially you did the low ticket, then you ran basically a live call and soft pitched Inner Circle, but you eventually transitioned to a sales team. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are, and I see this narrative a lot, like, I only close through the DMs, or I'll sell just through Google Docs, and, you know, like anything to not take sales calls and have a sales team. And I'm like, I think that'll be the most obvious bottleneck in your business at some point, right? So what's your take on, or the benefit of having a sales team and the level you've been able to take your business to?
Dude, I've never not like sold high ticket with, you know, no salesperson. Like that's crazy. There are times where like someone has been in the DMs talking to both me and a setter for months. Like I'll hop in a little bit and then the setter will hop in and then I'll hop in again. And then finally, after like 6 months of talking, like they'll be like, I don't need a call, just send me the link. So like that happens maybe once a month that like someone will just piff through DMs. But like when we started, so like on April 19th, I sent an email to my list of low ticket buyers and said, hey, if anybody wants to join my little inner circle thing that I'm like building right now, it's beta. You'll get hop on a call with me, you book. And then I was slinging it at 3K at the time. And I think I went like 29 for 30, or sorry, 30 for 31. I could not miss, bro. And every single call showed. I didn't have a single, I had a 100% show rate and a 99% close rate. It was insane. Which like no sales guy can say. Obviously, I'm not just a crazy sales guy. It's just because I'm the face of the thing. So it's like, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, so as soon as I stepped out, I got my guy Julian. Was Julian your guy?
Yeah. I talked to Julian.
Sweetest kid ever. To like a good sales guy isn't just to get you over the line and get you to pull out your car. Like they're offering more. Like I will review sales calls from my guys, and like I will listen to them literally change the way that some of these prospects think about themselves. Like it's much more transformative than just like, hopping on a call so you can pay me. It's not about that. I mean, it's part of it. Yeah, it's like it's part of the funnel, but also like people will usually leave those calls better than they came just because of, the conversation with these guys, because they need to hear stuff sometimes. They need to hear like, you're dragging your feet too much. You're not doing enough. Like if you're 38 and living in your mom's basement, like time to, put, the rubber to the road a little bit, you know what I mean? So a lot of times, like, it's more than just like, hey, like what are your, what's with your social security number or something, you know what I mean? It's more than that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think particularly selling, kind of like an MMO opportunity, right? There does have to be, and that's something I've sold for years at this point too. And it's like, there really does have to be a transformative conversation that happens to, and most people aren't fully ready to just go over that line right away. There's some sort of value that the salesperson has to add into it. And I think just having that touch point with an actual person, there's things that just can't be like fleshed out through a video or through a DM conversation. Like that one-on-one interaction, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, dude, you got to hold up a mirror to them sometimes. And like a good salesperson will do that. Like it's super tailored to them. Like I would love to save, 70 grand a month and not pay my sales guys and just do it off of Google Doc. But I would not make, we would not have the numbers that we have if we just didn't have those people. Like even dialers, like, so I have 3 closers and I think like, I don't even know now. I think it's 8 or 9 dialers that are just ripping through leads. And even they like have a huge value add. Like before we had dialers, like, our show rate wasn't as good. Like our like we weren't getting it was just, they add a lot of volume. Like they're just a catch all. Like there's literally nowhere to go. Like once you enter our funnel, like something's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's it. Staying in front of people is important, right? And I think a lot of times people worry about being in front of their customers too much. And it's like, oh man, people are consuming content, information, and touch points all day long. The question is it going to be you or someone else? Like if you can get the dialers out there and reaching out to people, sending emails, anything to kind of move the needle forward, obviously leads to better results.
Dude, absolutely. And this is something that this is like, I don't want to say New Year's resolution because I feel like that's a little corny. But like this year already, in the first 7 days of January, I've posted like 8 or 9 TikToks, I think 15 or 16 reels. I've gone live 6 times. Like, did I say YouTube? I don't think I did. Maybe I did, but whatever. Regardless, so much content. And I plan on keeping this up because like, I can't think about like, am I, overflowing my audience with content? Because like most people who think that are not even close. There are guys that are posting, 3, 4, 5 times a day on Instagram, 3, 4, 5 times. TJR Trades posts 20 TikToks a day, like literally 20. I think he's doing a YouTube video a day. I think he's going live on Kick. And there's a reason why he is making more money than like anybody right now, is because he's so, number one, he's really good at what he does. He's got a great on-screen personality, and his distribution is insane. Like 30 pieces of content a day. Like there's no way that you're not going to like catch something and just grow like insane. And that's what's happening.
Yeah. And I don't agree with everything Hormozy says, but there was like one little bit he had. He was like talking about growing his YouTube audience, and he went to someone who had like, I don't know, the crazy amount of followers. And like the first thing he realized, the guy asked him like, oh, how much are you posting a day? And he said, just say it was once. And he was like, oh, I post 10. He's like, all right, well, don't say anything else. I mean, that's all I really need to know. If you're posting 10 times a day and I'm only posting one, there's the biggest, gap, right? Obviously too, you don't just want to be putting out like shit content. You want it to be good, but it's definitely a volume game. And I think every touch point, right, the more someone sees you, the more you indoctrinate them, and those are the people that become sales. And even looking, kind of reflecting back like on how I ended up joining your Inner Circle program, it was probably just about a year ago, but dude, I've been watching you on TikTok for like a year and a half, maybe even 2 before, I don't even know. But I was like, dang, like I like his content. And it was just, you plant a little seed, and it's like every time I see like copywriting, man, there's ways to get clients. And that's something I'd kind of been trying to do for a little bit, was get clients in that way. But over time, you know what I mean? It was like, all right, that kind of wore on me, for lack of a better word. Then I went to one of your free webinars, and I almost went through it with the angle as well. I was like, well, let me just see how he structures a free webinar, because from like a copywriting point of view, let me see how he flows through this whole presentation. And I was like thinking about it with that angle. And by the time I was done, I was like, I'm gonna buy from this guy. I was like, I'm not new with everything, but at some point when you get to a certain level of experience or time in the game, it's almost like you can get more value from the programs that you enroll into. I didn't go into it like, okay, he needs to teach me everything. It was like, I can pick up 1 or 2 things in this whole thing, and it'll make me my $5,000 back. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Point being, my customer journey was a bit long, but it's like I watched enough of your content over time and learned enough from you and how you structure your videos and your webinars that eventually I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm going to buy.
Yeah, dude, that's so funny. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that too. I do wish that I had more guys like you, because like, again, like I would so much rather teach and work with someone who like knows what the fuck he's got, like knows what's going on, like understands how digital marketing works. Like you already had a background in sales. Like it was so easy for you to kind of hop in and just like pick up a couple of things, like you said. And like, I wish I had like, 100 more of you, because like, it's, I want to do that. Like every guy who's in there who has a background in sales always does well. Like one of the guys actually who was on the boat with us for Copy Olympics, also had a background in sales, and he was in the same program as the guy who was closing him in sales. And so he came in, dude, he started making 10, 12 grand a month like ASAP too. So like but to go back to what you're saying, a lot of people like, and again, that's the thing with organic, is like, dude, there are people that will talk to one of my guys and be like, yeah, I've been following Mason on on Twitter since 2021. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what took you so long? But like, whatever, man, I'm glad you're here now. But yeah, those people tend to do well. Those people, because like they're so educated already, they jump in, they're more than ready. You know?
Yeah, like Julian did not have to say much to me. You know what I mean? Like that conversation was not super deep or anything. It was like, I kind of was that person who just pulled out my credit card. I was like, dude, I'm ready. Still a good conversation. You know what I mean? He did his due diligence. He did everything, right, as a sales rep should. But I was like, dang, I'm ready to go. And that goes to show like the power of, content over a long period of time. And I want to dive more into that on the more tactical side of things here. So I'll wrap up the first section here. This will be, kind of posted on YouTube publicly. So for anyone listening on this end, Mason, where can our listeners find you, learn from you, and take advantage of your services?
Yeah, so I'm on every social media platform at Cardinal Mason, except for Instagram for some reason, where I'm at Cardinal Mace, M-A-S-E. Always down for conversation. Any of the Grant Temple listeners, if you guys want to DM me, I'm always around.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. All right, now transition to more of the tactical side of things. And really just tangible things people can, kind of take and actually implement into their business, their content, whatever it is they're doing, writing copy. So content creation, kind of transitioning into that, just because that's what we were talking about. And I think it's a great place to start. In your own words, how do you structure your content? Is there a framework you already know before you're hitting record and diving into it?
No, man, I don't. And like, this is why like talking about content is always so weird for me. And I think like there's a lot of other guys who I look up to for content and I want to ask them advice. And they say the same kind of thing that I do, where it's like, dude, sometimes you just have a banger idea. Like every video that I've had that has gone, that has done really well has always just been a bit of like lightning in a bottle, where it's like, I don't know where it came from. I didn't script it. I didn't, think too much about it. It was usually first take, like just hit record, and then 10 minutes later it's posted, and then 2 days later it's got however many 100,000 views. I wish I had something better on this, but I do know that the stuff that my audience really likes that they seem to respond to is like when you're kind of putting them on game, where it's like stuff they've never heard before. Like for example, I did a video recently about black hat MRR, which is like a common scam that like nobody should try. But I talked briefly about how it works and like how kind of cool it is. I just thought it was interesting. And that video did really well. I think people really love talking or hearing about like high level money stuff. Like, me sharing examples from like my really rich friends, or like me, talking about like the way that I live and just sort of like giving an inside look on that. I feel like people really value that. It's really hard to like go viral just like doing like tutorial based content where it's like step by step how to do copywriting. Like people kind of just don't really give a shit. You have to get creative with like how you deliver this stuff. One thing that I've always been aware of when I make content is like what's already played out, like what are people sick of hearing. And this is back from like my early teenager days when I had like I guess social anxiety, and I just like kept a lot of that stuff where I was just always hyper tuned in to like what people do and don't want to hear. Like I was quite a people pleaser. And so it was a practice of mine almost to like think about what should I not say? What should I avoid saying? Like, how is there a better way for me to say this thing without coming off corny or sounding cliche? And so that's always been the goal. That's with my content, is just like, even if something has already been said, say it a completely different way. Like basically just rephrasing platitudes, or just like making sure to stay away from topics that we know people don't like, so that I can, or I know that people like, for example, talking about financial freedom. I very rarely ever say the words financial freedom unless I'm like making a joke about it, because like it's just played out. People don't want to hear that. It's like one of those like buzzwords now that people are like, oh, this guy might be grifting something. So
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I'm curious as to your intentionality behind this, because I always thought I mimic this a lot in my content. This is something that I learned from you before I ever bought anything. It was really just looking at your content and the way you do the first like 3 seconds, the hook, right? You always, I won't say always, right? A lot of your videos that I've seen done really well, you have like a creative hook that you're speaking, but then the text on the screen, it's almost like what the video's about in 4 or 5 words in a creative way. And I think the like dynamic between what you're saying and reading what's on the screen, it's a really compelling thing. And I think one of the videos, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was like how to make 6 figures as a dummy. And then like the words you said were like slightly different than that, but it's enough to be like, what's going on in this video? So what's your intentionality behind, I guess, the hook and how it reads and what you're actually saying?
Okay, so that's interesting that you picked up on that, because I don't do that really on purpose. So the verbal hook I'll come back to, because that I really have no idea where that comes from. But the text on screen, I always try and make it look a little bit innocuous or almost like mainstream. Like instead of like making like an official guru hook where it's like, here's how you can change your life forever in 2025. Yeah. I'm always trying to hit like mainstream TikTok. Like my target audience, or my dream target audience, is like college age girls. Just because I feel like those are the people that like share stuff the most. Just college age anybody really. Like those are the people that like I kind of want following me. It's just like, I don't know. like, and so anytime I word something weird, like I'll use like stupid emojis or like just like stupid acronyms or misspell stuff. Like
Mhm.
one of the best videos that I had from back in the day, the text on screen was like, fix your life and just do this, LMAO, with like 8 O's on it. And like I figured like that would bypass the BS filter for a lot of people, where it's like, this isn't just like some random guru. Like this is someone who like is just like me, but also just happened to make money. That's kind of the goal with it usually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it, it's creative, you know what I mean? Because I watch people's content and everything looks stiff. It's like they make the caption like so official and like try to align perfectly. In yours, there's almost like a dichotomy between what you're saying and what's written there, that it like would take my brain of like a second to figure out. I'm like, well, he's saying this, but this is what I'm reading. Like, how does all this end up connecting? And then there I am watching your video, you know, and I was like, dang, that was a really like key takeaway I had. And I actually implemented that into a lot of my TikTok content on a previous channel that I had. Not like copying the words that you were saying or anything, but just that idea of, all right, my caption that's on screen is going to be like, in a nutshell, what point I'm making in this video, but the words that I'm saying are not going to match that in the beginning. And it did really well for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, and so for the verbal hook too,
Yeah.
I think the ones that tend to do really well for me are usually like dispelling common myths. So like in the how to make six figures a dummy, I think the hook was, a lot of people think you need to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer for you to make 6 figures a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is what, because I'm from like normie town. Like I'm here right now. I'm in Burlington, Ontario. Like my hometown is like down the street, just down that way. And like nobody really makes money there. And like those are the beliefs that are held by pretty much everyone. Like if you want to make money, doctor, engineer, lawyer, one of those three. And so if I start with that and then come with something else, like a lot of times, like that's who I'm hitting and I can kind of turn it around. So, yeah, I think like, again, with the hook, like that's a thing you got to test a lot. Cause like, I still like, every time I think I have it figured out, like I'll have a string of videos that just get no views. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's more to it, you know? So.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of on the back end of that, there's the hook and getting people's attention. Another thing I think you do really well in your content, and this is all at the foundation of copywriting, I guess I want to tie that back in, right? Is it's not necessarily that you're writing it down, but you're thinking in the mind of like a copywriter, right? Like you were saying earlier, it kind of just flows out at this point. It's just the foundation of how you do it. You tell a story to make a point. Like there's never how can I say, with that example that you just gave about a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? Like you kind of, for lack of a better word, you go on a mini rant about it, and then you make a point about why you went on the rant. So I guess, what's your thought process around going, all right, if I want to make this point, how do I create a compelling story or frame so I can make the point?
Yeah, I think you stumped me, because like, again, like I don't script anything. Like it really is just stream of consciousness. And I think that might be, I guess, closer to the answer that you're looking for, is like, you shouldn't be thinking, like overthinking your content too much to the point where it feels like content. I think like the people that do really well, like right now, this kid Brez Scales is blown up everywhere. Like me and my buddies keep talking about him, because he's popping every channel that he has, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, is just going nuts, because he's so natural and his content doesn't feel like content. He's kind of just talking. It's just stream of consciousness. And I think if you can tap into that more, I think that matters way more than like what you say. Because it sounds more like a conversation. Like everyone uses this example of like just being on like a one-to-many FaceTime. That's kind of what it's supposed to feel like a little bit. And the more you can like just get comfortable and really make it feel like it's just you and one other person that you're having a conversation with, just on TikTok, I think the better it comes out. So like, I really don't think too much about like how I deliver the content, as long as I just understand that I'm never being boring. I think like sometimes I will go and chop out bits and I'm like, I don't need this in here. And there's also not one way to do it. Like the way that I make content is very different from how this guy Brez makes content, or how Mr. 4 to 8 makes content, or how TJR makes content, or how you make content. Like everyone's got their own little different style and different way of doing storytelling or like delivering a point. But I think the most important point or part is that it feels organic, and that like, no, like people kind of almost forget that they're watching a TikTok. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it makes a lot of sense when it feels very natural, conversational. And that's why you see, like, outside of someone trying to market something, some of the most random videos go viral. When you think about it, it's almost like you feel like you're right there with the person. It's not like a high production thing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I know, copywriters, people who have clients, right? Some of it is scripting content. How do how does a copywriter, like say you're writing, a content for someone, how do you go about structuring that to make it feel as organic as possible, even though you're kind of writing content for someone?
You're talking about when I write for somebody?
Yeah, or students, right? Like if someone came to you, was like, hey, I've got this client and I'm creating, 10 reels a month for them. How can they script it, right? But it still feel organic and natural.
Okay, so I mean, the way that I don't do this anymore. I had a client that I was doing this for, but I got rid of them like early or late last year. Um, I would literally make a video as if I were them and like film myself doing it and then basically transcribe it. And I would leave in the ums and ahs and the likes and
Hmm.
like all the weird little verbal quirks that I have that they could. So because like when they read it, I've used to have people like try and script content for me. I never really used any of it because I just never really liked it. But like they wouldn't, it literally sounded like an ad that I was reading. Like it sounded like an ad read. And I was like, well, this doesn't feel right at all. If you start by doing the video and then just writing it down, it feels way more natural when they try to, they're not going to match your style. Like they're going to change some things about it, but the way that you deliver it speaking is going to be better than the way you would deliver it if it was only ever written. But that's just for content. Like I wouldn't do that for an email or an ad or something. I would obviously
Yeah.
just write it. But when you're writing
Yeah.
something that's to be spoken, you have to actually read it out. One of the first projects that I ever did, well, not one of the first, but early, I think like end of summer of 2020, I wrote like a TV commercial for Everyman Jack. I don't know if
Yeah.
it ever went, but it did get produced. So I did see it. But I don't think it ever went up anywhere. But it was like I have the voiceover somewhere in my Google Docs. I played it on like a YouTube live. But it was like it was supposed to be like a 30-second read. And I was like constantly, I would like write a line and then I would read it out and then I would time it on my phone to make sure that it would be read properly, like and on time. And like pace it with this like footage that they already had made. And like, so that was part of the creative process was like literally just me sitting there, like doing voice acting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope that you actually were able to work for a brand like that and almost have a commercial produced. That's sick. But I think it's a really good takeaway is that, I guess kind of what I got from that is that if you're doing content on your own, organic, right, just turn the camera around and let the stream of consciousness flow. Which, yeah, no, I love that. So speaking of ads then, because you said maybe that's a little more a script. So even like video ads, I think it has to be a little more kind of punchy to the point. Like you're spending money, you can't waste any time or views, right? So what would you go, or how would you go about structuring, just say like a Instagram ad for your coaching program? What do you think is there a framework that you would use in that?
For mine specifically, yeah. So I actually don't even let myself write my own ads for that. I actually have someone else write it, and then I have Griffin will like proofread it, and then I'll proofread it, and then it goes.
Yeah.
Because I'm too close to it, and so like sometimes I actually need a third party to do it. But those are typically like, yeah, like it's exactly how you like the guy that writes that doesn't really consider like what it's going to sound like when I say it. It's really just up to me to deliver it properly. And like usually anybody who's going to be doing an ad creative like should be already good on camera. It's not like just some random guy who's going to be doing content. You got to find someone who is good on camera to do these ads, or else the ads just aren't going to work. And yeah, like I'm pretty like I go word for word like to the script. But yeah, no, it's just an ad, like just the same way you would write like just ad copy that's not going to be like read. Is like how those scripts sound. They're pretty stiff, but again, like it's kind of up to the creator to make it sound like not as scripted.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think ads it's funny because you can tell when it's an ad. And it's funny in our mind too, is like, if I saw an organic piece of content that looked like that, I'd be like, God damn, this is like a stiff piece of content. But I scroll to the next video and see an ad that's meant to be an ad, and you'd like understand as a consumer. So I do think it needs to be different than your organic content. And it's okay that it is as well, to just kind of get directly to the point, like who you're trying to help, what they need to hear, and what to do next, essentially, right? But yeah, so kind of next, if we go over into maybe a sales funnel, right? Like landing page copy. And I think you said earlier, there's the actual writing of the copy, but structuring a landing page as well. And man, I've seen a lot of different ones, and some that I think are not so great, wildly overcomplicated. What do you think is a good, let's say, opt-in page specifically? How should that be structured, and what do you think the copy should look like?
I mean, the copy is so the way we have it, where it's like we have like almost like the thumbnail of the VSL with a play button. When you click on it, the opt-in pops up, name, email number, submit, and then headline, eyebrow, text. So the headline is just like, I don't know, something insane, like make some crazy claim with the double asterisk. So you can then at the bottom apologize to the FTC for what you just said. And then the VSL. So the VSL that we're currently running now, I wrote. I liked it when I recorded it, and now I hate it. So I'm probably gonna end up going back and changing it in the next like couple weeks or months. The metrics are fine. I just don't like it. But I mean the VSL, like that took me forever to write, bro. Like the hook, the beginning, like the first 2 minutes took me like days for me to even figure out like what I wanted to say. I couldn't like figure out exactly what it was gonna be. Like those are hard. Like writing a VSL is hard. That's why every time I see someone in the inner circle like sell a VSL package for like 2K, I'm like, you're an idiot. It's gonna take you forever, bro. Like if it takes me 2 days to figure out what I'm gonna put as the hook in the VSL, like oh my god. And so like, but yeah, no, I mean like a VSL page, like an opt-in page for that is usually pretty simple. Like there's not a ton of copy, like all the copies in the VSL. I don't love like long sales pages because like I just don't even like selling products like that. Like I don't work with anybody that has like a funnel, like a sales page for like a $4.97 or a $9.97. It should just be VSL, book a call, and then social proof below.
Yeah. Yeah. And structuring the VSL, right? What is I know this, like you could probably go on forever about this, right? But what would the general flow be? Like hook, introduce the idea, who it's for, who it's not for, like that whole kind of sequence. Do you have a way that you would lay out a VSL or a framework you would work from for that?
Yeah, so like what you just said is like a B2B VSL because you can be very logical about it. B2C, you need to be a lot more emotional. And so like so the first like couple minutes is like there's an opportunity, XYZ, super social proof heavy, a lot of like early storytelling of just like who, what's happening to these people who just like, take this opportunity to like learn copywriting. Like we use Owen Santos, who again is another sales guy. You should talk to him, man. First 30 days collects $11,000+ because he's just a fucking dog. Sorry, I'm not gonna go on a tangent real quick. Owen Santos, like one of the greatest high performers I've like talked to, like sales manager for a solar company, probably already makes like a couple $100,000 a year, is able to jump into copywriting, something he's never done before, and like just creates another stream of 6 figures like that. You can just tap into at any point. Ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, talk about guys like him, talk about like Natasha, talk about all kinds of different like avatars that are doing well, and then talk about why it's a great opportunity. The sort of the 3 sales of like you have like selling me, selling you, and then selling the model. And so like doing that and then jumping into the free training and then talking about how great the program is at the end. But I think like if I can go back, I think like what I need to change with it is like making sure that people really understand like what copywriting actually is. Cause like, again, that's something I can explain with content. If you watch me on TikTok, like you'll start to pick it up over like, watching 10 to 20 videos, but you not get it if I don't explain it exactly how you need to hear it, in this VSL. And so I think I need to change that, make it a little bit more like, I guess, normie friendly. And then I think it'll be good to go.
Yeah. So you need people to have more clarity on, what copywriting is. Do you think that's kind of the missing piece in it currently?
Also too, yeah, because people, okay, so like e-commerce right now is pretty hot. It's heating up again. Like it died for a little bit and then it came back.
Yeah.
And because like it's been in people's minds for years now, like probably close almost 10 years, what drop shipping is, what e-commerce is. And they already know they want to do it and they already know what it is. And they're just looking for someone to sort of teach them properly how to do it. And
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier of a sale. But copywriting is like something that me and maybe Alex Catoni are the only two influencers that have like successfully been able to like distribute this idea of what copywriting is.
Yep.
And then, so like I'm competing against like an industry that people already know everything about, same as real estate, right? Like we need to sort of educate people on exactly what this is like within 30 minutes because they've never really heard of it before. And so I don't have the advantage of like having like 10 years of like information already going out on the internet, but also I have way less competitors because nobody, as far as I know, is like that really has like a program like ours. And so
Yeah.
we're operating in a vacuum. It's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. The only people that I see really talking about copywriting, it's kind of weird. Actually, it's ironic, I guess is probably the right word for it because they're copywriters and I feel like they should almost know better. Is that they create their content like teaching about copywriting, but then what they're selling is their copywriting services, not like teaching other people how to write copy. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that are, teaching it, especially the way, you are. It's funny. I bought a copywriting course. Are you familiar with AWAI? It's like American Writers and Artists. Dude, it's like they're probably like the OG of teaching people copywriting, but it's so stiff, honestly. It's just like people in their like 50s that have been probably like writing ads in newspapers like 30 years ago. And they're kind of teaching it in an online way, but they're the only other kind of like big big company I've seen doing it. But besides that, yeah, there's only a handful of people that are teaching what you're teaching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe it's pronounced away. Otherwise, I've been saying it wrong. But I actually, so when I started working at Structured, that second client, that agency, our like copy manager, like our senior copywriter, like Michaela, gave me and two other of the copywriters that were on there like access to this course because she bought it and then just gave it to us. And I remember going through it and I was like, what is this? Like none of this is even relevant. Like, cause we were doing e-commerce copy. We were at an agency and like, it was all stuff on like how to write like advertorials. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. I was so brand new. I had no idea. It wasn't super helpful. I think like really what people want to know, like, yes, it's super important for people to learn copywriting, but like, there's nothing really that shows people like how to get clients and how to build a business around it. Like that's mostly what we try and focus on is like, how are you going to make money off this? Cause like copywriting, I feel like is not that difficult to learn. It's formulas and it's like, it's empathy and it's like studying people. Like it's not that difficult. What's hard is trying to get a business owner who gets pitched 50 times a day to say yes to you. That's hard. So we focus a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great point. And I feel like there's something to, and I actually meant to ask you this a little bit earlier, but just squeeze it in now. What do you think are some intangibles, I guess you could say? It's like, some of the people, like the most successful people, even just around you or in inner circle or things like that. It's almost like they have something you can't quite put your finger on. You know what I mean? It's like the same. There's probably 10 people that do the same thing as the one person, but the one person is just like absolutely crushing it. What makes like a good freelancer, and this probably will go into the same thing that makes a good entrepreneur in general, but like what makes like a killer freelancer and, outside of just the skill of being able to write copy?
Dude, some people are just inherently likable. Some people are just like, you want to be around them and you want to hire them. You want to work with them. Like so one of my first ever, like, I guess, real case studies, Kevin. Remember Kevin?
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he go, if I remember this, did you have a case study on? We went to like 0 to like 40K a month and just kind of like fell off to, I don't even know where. Was that a different dude? You sold it for like $1.
I don't think he fell off, but he's no longer well. He used to be a coach, but he wanted to do that anymore. Okay. 0 to 40K a month in 7 months, which is ridiculous. And Kevin was just one of those guys where he was just such a likable guy. You just wanted to talk to him. You just wanted to be around him. And like when he was doing outreach, it wasn't like his script was better. It's not like we gave him a better script than we gave everyone else. Like he wasn't even really using our scripts, I don't think. But it's just the way he was pitching people and the way he would get on the phone with people. It's just like you wanted to be around Kevin. It's just a sweetheart. Same with this kid I got right now, this kid Evan Hansen. He's 17. And yeah, some people just get it, bro. They just know how to communicate. They're just like way more personable. It's like a weird thing that like you really can't control. You can kind of learn it, I guess. But it's the same as learning social skills. And like, that's something that like, we don't teach social skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's guys like Kevin and Evan Hansen where like, they are just super personable and they do well. But there's also people who are like, really like, they don't focus on that. They focus on like literally just being really good at copywriting, and they're just like professional as hell. And like, that's their bread and butter. So it really does depend on like, I think you kind of just got to lean into a certain style that is just the most you, and just be that. So like, I don't think I fit into like the Kevin and Evan bucket or the professional bucket. I think I'm somewhere in between. And like, I kind of rode that out when I was starting. And like, that was just kind of like what I felt like I was just being authentic. I think just being more comfortable, like talking to people and understanding that like, you know, you are the prize, and like just having that confidence of like being able to reach out. I think when you're starting and you're just really stiff and you're just trying to do what someone like you says or what I say, or like you're just copying a sales framework, like it's not going to feel real. It's going to be weird, hard for you to get clients. But once you become more of yourself, it becomes way easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think kind of even going back to the lens of just sales in general, right? It's always like that. It's kind of the same intangibles when there's, someone who's really like a top performing sales rep, or someone that can sell their own program really well. It feels authentic, right? It doesn't feel so forced. There's, I've like reviewed and trained other salespeople, reviewed their calls, and you kind of watch it. And like one critique I had of someone, and it was meant to be a good one, but I was like, I don't know if that came off harsh, but that guy reviewed this call, and I looked at it and they were like, oh, what'd you notice? I was like, honest, man, you look like a hostage. Like, I don't know how to explain. You look like a hostage on camera. Like, you're so stiff and you're like saying the words that you should be saying, but it doesn't feel real, and I think that's a key part to it. So kind of the same thing that would make you a successful freelance, like leaning into your strengths, I guess would be the same thing as, a successful entrepreneur, a successful sales rep, or really anything else.
Yeah. Like you kind of are a sales rep. Like it's the same sort of thing. Like I honestly wish that like most of my guys inside Inner Circle would go through some sort of sales training. I might even have someone come through and like teach sales, just so they get a little bit tighter on that. Cause like, that's such a huge part of it that like, yes, obviously, again, you need to be a good writer, but like, if you're not good at sales, you're not going to close any clients, you're not going to get paid,
Yeah. Look, I'm sure there's really good writers in Inner Circle that like probably just never got the chance or have not gotten the chance yet. Like they could go in and crush it for a client as far as the words that they can write, but them getting in front of the right person and being able to convey that to them is it's kind of a different ball game.
Exactly. And I'm seeing that a little bit with some of the guys that I'm going one-on-one with right now, where it's just like, they're nasty writers. Like they got it, but it's just like, you got that confidence out of them a little bit more so that they understand that like they can pitch people and they can go get clients. They don't recognize their own strengths.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious and I think this would be really good for kind of just coaching in general. How do you pull those strengths out, right? Because I've like vacillated a lot on this as I've, tried to help other, sales reps, or even just kind of in different industries that I worked in sales. It's hard to teach personality. Can you really teach personality, right? And some people you're like, all right, I don't want to say like you're doomed because of your personality, but we've got to find different things to bring out of you for you to step into. How do you go about doing that for your clients? Like, for example, some of these that you're working with right now, what's the plan to maybe get them out of their shell, so to speak? Not change their personality, but like kind of change their personality.
Well, yeah, no, you don't even have to change it. You don't have to teach personality. You just got to teach them to love themselves and trust themselves a little bit more. Because like everyone has a personality, everyone has a version of themselves that they want to be, that like, if they were to sort of meditate on like, what would I look like if I was basically perfect? That exists. Like you can picture it in your mind. There's like a couple things that are just staying your way. It's not usually things you need to add, it's things you need to subtract. filters that are like taking you out of the game. It's making you overthink. I used to be like this too. This is why I feel like I'm good at sort of like getting this out of people, is because way back, like I considered myself an introvert. I no longer do. I would recharge alone. That was how I wanted to be. That was how I wanted to spend most of my time. I just wanted to be solo. Because every time I felt like I was around people, I felt very performative. And I was like, I'm exhausted talking to people. I'm exhausted having conversations. I need to like retreat into my own little hole so I can breathe again and be myself. If you can teach someone that it's actually okay and encouraged to like just say whatever you want for the most part, within reason, then like you will breed extroverts. You will breed people that like want to be better because they can see a version of themselves that is higher than what currently exists. So again, it's a game of subtraction, and like you can only do that by just encouraging people to just like just telling them it's okay to like say what they want and be less filtered, because they've just never been told that before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people fall into, I know you said before you were like this, and I still find myself to a certain extent, I fall into this at times, like people pleasing. Right. And one thing that's really kind of, I don't say hurt me. Like I've done very well with sales in the grand scheme of things. And it's not like I'm always like this, but I look back on some people that I probably like let go, so to speak. And it wasn't about like not closing the sale, but I was scared of being somewhat confrontational or saying the wrong thing and them not liking me, that I allowed them to not buy, even though it was the right fit and it's exactly what they needed. And more than likely they're stuck in the same exact spot that they were when they were looking for help in the first place.
Right.
So how would you encourage someone to kind of be more, less of a people pleaser from your own experience and have the conversations that are needed to be had? Because I'm sure you have those as the head of a company as well, some tough conversations.
Of course. I mean, I don't manage a sales team. I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of that stuff, like when to push and how hard to push, like I don't really know. But I think like it is important to have someone like, do you have anyone in your life that you think is just like insanely charismatic and just like sort of like peak sort of like alpha energy masculinity, but they're also like kind and generous and they like uplift you? There's a guy in my life that I think of who's kind of like that. And like a lot of times, like I'll ask myself, like, what would this guy do? If I were in his shoes, like what would he think? What would he say? And a lot of times, like the answer is like, he doesn't really give a shit what other people would think. Like if there's like in a sales conversation, his answer would probably be like, if this guy is, so turned off by me trying to encourage him, that like he wants to end the call and not, join, then like, whatever, that's his loss. Like I'm the one that's, up top here. Like I'm doing him a favor. Like you got to kind of have examples of people like that in your real life that you can sort of reference and be like, what would that actually look like if I were this person? And like that's been a lot of like how I develop like a lot of these skills. Like it has to be sort of like learned by example a little bit. Yeah, man, it's a weird one though, because it takes a long time. Like this is a thing that I had to work on for years, and only now I feel like I'm like a little bit competent in that regard. But I mean, yeah, like I think the earlier the better, honestly. And also living in a city like Miami where it attracts top talent for just the type of people you're going to be around, like the people that have that kind of mindset really helps. But yeah, man, it's a time game for sure.
Yeah. And it's important to step into that I guess all around in business, right? Like keeping this through the lens of sales. And I think we've kind of covered this and throughout the conversation in different ways, but you're kind of always selling to a certain extent, you know what I mean? It's, and everything's copywriting is the base of everything. I know we can get really granular with it, but for you to do what you do, like you need to sell through your content, maybe not like sell directly your program, but like you're selling people, right? Then through your ads and, your VSL, and then actually on the call, but even afterwards, when you're getting people to take action, when you're coaching people, you're selling them on the idea if they can do something more. Do you feel that I guess maybe let me ask you this, where do you think your biggest areas improvement can be currently in regards to that?
In regards to just that idea of selling?
Yeah.
I wish I could improve just more top of funnel stuff. Like that would solve a lot of problems. Like we make a lot more money. Like if I feel like on the back end, like we do pretty good. Like everyone seems to, enjoy the product once they hop in. I want to get better at inspiring people to, you know, who have never seen me before, to think that like they could do better. You know what I mean? Like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Like, I want people on the top of the funnel to think like, oh, copywriting sounds great. Mason sounds great. Mason makes me feel like I could be great. Like that's what I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
going so hard. You know, like, that's why I'm doing so much content right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's awesome. And what's kind of next in your business? Like, I feel like you've obviously done a lot, but I know you want to you want to do more. What's kind of the next benchmark for your business that you're hoping to hit?
Obviously I want to crack paid. I feel like that would solve a lot of problems for us too. There's another thing that I'm working on that I'm not really going to talk too much about, but it will end up affecting inner circle students a lot. Because like I feel like I'm pretty good at getting people to like 15, 20K a month, but not so good at like, I mean, we've never had anybody hit 100K a month.
Yeah.
And so like, there's something that I want to try and figure out if I can do it so that you guys can then do it. And then I can have, you know, copywriters like you, like guys that know what's up, like you or Tommy or Sebastian, or whoever, to like, you know, be able to do this thing that I'm trying to do. And then you guys can get to like milli-year status, which I think would be cool.
Yeah. Oh, I would love that. I've been working towards it. It's quite a journey too. I mean, how would you describe kind of, you know, I know we talked about this a little bit, but now in context from like start to where you are right now, how would you kind of describe the journey and who you have to become to crack this next level and be able to help people get to this next level?
I mean, dude, it's just, I feel like I feel like I know so much now. Yeah. Okay. So in my last YouTube video, I had this graphic up on screen, you know, the thing where it's like, you have like, data, knowledge, insight, and then there's one in between, and then wisdom, where it's just like, it's dots, and then the dots start to connect, and then the dots light up, and then the dots are all connected. And then I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the wisdom thing, where it's like, I really am starting to see like the entire picture of how shit's supposed to work, like really understanding like how to generate good quality traffic, and really how to like, you know, like what a good product is supposed to be like, just really seeing business like all the way through, where before it was just like, I know how to write good copy. I didn't understand anything else, but I'm getting better at that, which is allowing me to sort of not just get better at the business that I am running now, but also to look for new opportunities and see like, okay, where is 50 mil a year? What do I have to do? And so again, it just comes with time, just looking at a lot of businesses, trying and failing with stuff on my own.
Yeah.
But hopefully in the next 5 years, like we will be at 50 mil a year, probably not with this, but like doing something completely different, and
Yeah.
just like making an even bigger impact, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's a progression of, you know, you starting out as a freelancer all the way to this point. It's inspiring to see. So, you know, you're doing incredible with it all. I definitely look up to you. I know a lot of people watching this will as well. And that 50 mil a year mark, I was on a sales team and we did 60 mil in a year, and it was, dude, it was fucking crazy. Like, it was just like watching it all play out and how big it got and how much traffic there was. It was such an eye-opening experience that like a business could do that online, you know, like it broke like some huge limiting beliefs I had. I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. You know what I mean? It really kind of like shattered my worldview. So point being though is it's possible for you, man. I think you can do it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me.
Of course. One more time for our listeners here on this end of things, where can our audience find you, learn more about you, and utilize your services?
Yes, sir. Cardinal Mason everywhere except for Instagram, where it's at Cardinal Mace. Talking about copywriting, talking about business, talking about mindset, talking about ways to make you better.
Okay. All right, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being here. This was fantastic, and we'll catch up soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.